I just feel like
It's so good.
it's amazing. Welcome to the Putback presented by 888 Sport. Bet $20 on either the Knicks or the Nets and get $88 in free bets by using the promo code SNY88. I'm Ian Begley here with Chris Williamson. Chris, what do we have for the baseline this week?
Well, Ian, obviously the focus is on the playoff push for the New York Knicks, but the rumor mill is swirling around, and one name that's come up is Damian Lillard possibly coming to New York. So what are the chances that we see Dame time at Madison Square Garden next year?
I'm going to say slim, Chris, because first of all, Damian Lillard has to agree to be traded from Portland. We're not there yet, but the speculation started when Chris Haynes from Yahoo Sports wrote a column about Lillard and the Blazers and how the Blazers haven't really improved the roster around Lillard and how Portland, is likely going to be, I think he said, playoff fodder again for another top seed in the West, and they won't advance, say to the Western Conference Finals, and just what that means for Lillard and Portland and their future together. And then subsequently, Mark Berman reported that the Knicks are keeping an eye on the situation in Portland with Lillard. And, we can confirm that the Knicks obviously are going to keep an eye on that situation. They're going to keep an eye on any situation where a star could become disgruntled, could ask for a trade, and particularly one that could be looking for a bigger market. I'm not suggesting Lillard is looking for a bigger market, but we've talked in the past about how even dating back to the Steve Mills era in New York, the Knicks were keeping an eye on things in Portland with Lillard because some people around Lillard wanted to see him in a bigger market, whether that was because of endorsement money or visibility, whatever it was. That had been the case several years ago. I think that is also still the case now. This is not to suggest that Lillard's on the verge of asking out of Portland. I don't think we're anywhere near there yet, but it's something that the Knicks are keeping an eye on, and really any team without a top young point guard on its roster is going to keep an eye on this situation until it settles itself out.
This week's guest, making his triumphant return to the Putback, is Jason Concepcion, host of All Caps NBA and Takeline at Crooked Media.
I didn't think much of Barrett. I didn't think that he had this level that he's showing right now. I thought of him as, a wash athletically, like he needed to drive, but then couldn't really get separation. The shooting was iffy. I think what we've seen, certainly since I acquired this beautiful RJ Barrett painting from my friend Jackson, he's showing the signs of being a good shooter and a really effective shooter, particularly from the corners. He's drawing contact more now. If the foul drawing can come up in conjunction with the three-point percentage, oh man, we've really got something.
And the thing there with both those guys, RJ and Julius Randle, I mean, the numbers you point out obviously tell the story, but to me, and maybe I kind of get sucked into this because I've been covering the team for maybe 10 years now. That's a depressing number. Yeah.
I'm sorry for both of
us. But these guys, I mean, Julius Randle in particular, he did this interview on Instagram, Fat Joe's Instagram account, which is tremendous. But he talked about taking the criticism from the fans and the media and everybody last year in the city, and he didn't wilt from that. He went to work in the offseason. He addressed the weaknesses, the areas that you mentioned earlier, and to me, just that, you can't really quantify it, but the idea that he can handle that adversity and come out on the other side of it. RJ Barrett, similar. I think that's important in this market. And again, maybe I overstated a bit just because I'm in the middle of it, but I do think it matters.
No, I think you're 100% right. Coming off of the seasons we've seen, there is a real value to those two guys, RJ and Julius, kind of like being absolutely no drama basketball players that just hoop and are interested in getting better. That is like gold to Knicks fans. The fact that there appears to be nothing else. There's no other interest, no other story, no other outside drama that is invading on this. It's just like two guys who just work incredibly hard and want to win. That is so refreshing. Like, it's amazing.
When it happens at the top, too, at the top of your roster, it impacts the rest of the locker room, too. And, Thibodeau and these guys have talked all year about how Julius is in early, he stays late, and then he comes back later to shoot. And a lot of the younger guys on the roster have followed suit there. And, I think you look at the three-point percentage team-wide for them, it's pretty good. I don't know how much the extra shooting helps, but it certainly can't hurt when you look at how they've progressed from beyond the arc, particularly the guy in the painting over your shoulder. You got the number, right? What's the number since you got the painting?
Okay, so I got the painting, let's call it February 1st.
Yeah.
My friend Jackson, I paid a pretty penny to charity for it because it's an extremely bad painting, but I want to value the artist's time. Since that time, he has shot 43.9. So let's call it 44% from three.
And I want to go back to the art world for a second, Jason, because we're talking to you on Monday. I think the New Yorker released its cover earlier today about New York basketball declaring New York basketball back. There was a painting, some of the Nets, some of the Knicks. I need to get your thoughts on it.
I need answers about this particular artwork, why the Knicks are chasing the Nets. I mean, I get it from a record perspective, but it just feels egregious to me. But I'm willing to let it go because I feel like when it comes to Knicks themed art, the real power is right here. Whatever happens with the New Yorker, it can't affect this.
Which RJ is better, your painting or the depiction by the New Yorker?
The numbers speak for themselves. Like, let's just put it that way. Like, if you want to get into the subjective, like, value of art and how it hits you on an emotional level, yada, yada, fine. Only one painting has actually resulted in wins, increased scoring efficiency, and actual numbers that you can measure, and it's this painting here. That's it.
All facts. All facts, man. And when you look at this team, they have a high priority on defense with Coach Tibbs leading the way.
Yeah.
What is their identity right now in your mind?
That's it. I think as a defensive team, they just sell out on defense. We were expecting, that because of the amount of threes that opponents take against the Knicks, certainly pre-All-Star game, and the soft schedule that they had at that time, there was this expectation of, some of this is fool's gold. This is going to fall off at some point. And it really hasn't. They just compete all the time at a high level, and then they have Nerlens Noel back there waiting for you at the rim. If you happen to pierce that outer layer of defense, they play extremely hard. They know what they're doing. And I think that's the identity. They've taken on the identity essentially of Tibbs teams of the past, this team that's just going to compete with you to the death.
A little game here we're calling Madison Square Gross Overreactions. And we know that you are a known arbiter of some of the NBA's wildest and hottest takes. That's why we love you. And so we wanted to put this game together for your return to the putback. And so I'm going to read the prompt, and then we're going to give you 25 seconds to defend your take on it. And depending on what the subject is, we may lead you in one direction or another. Jason, you're going to start us off. Obi Toppin will make an NBA All-Star team during his career.
This is no shots at Obi, who seems like a wonderful young man. I'm going to say no right now because I don't want to put that pressure on him. I just want him to develop at his own pace, under his own agency and under his own engine. I think expectations have been a lot of what's ruined previous Knicks seasons. I don't want that to happen to Obi.
Wow, so rational for a Knick. Amazing. Christopher, Julius Randle is this season's MVP.
Julius Randle is this season's MVP. Okay. He is the MVP because without Julius Randle, this Knicks team wouldn't even be close to the playoffs, right? They wouldn't be in the forefront of the conversation because you look at the way that he impacts the game. Look at the way he impacts the Knicks roster with how he distributes the ball, how he is able to handle the rock and drive and shoot. This is a guy who is the MVP hands down.
You got Jason.
Nick Wright, take that, Nick Wright. How about
I like that.
Zion Williamson and the Knicks winning the, I'm going to say 2026-7 NBA championship.
I want to be thematically congruent with what I said before about expectations, but it's right to hope. Let that hope into your heart right now, because that's all we have. Look at the way Zion's face lit up when he talks about playing in the Garden. Let the rays of that sunshine hit your heart and just feel it. And don't worry about what will happen.
I love how he snuck in New Orleans, like 15 seconds into the answer. Like,
except obviously New Orleans is first. But
all right, Chris, the Knicks trotting out an all Kentucky starting five within the next 5 years.
Really? No, that is not happening. I'm sorry. There is no way that they trot out a starting five full of former Kentucky players, right? You're not going to have Nerlens Noel, Julius Randle, Kevin Knox, Emmanuel Quickly, and throw in another person. They're not going to have it unless you would get Tyler Hero, somebody like that.
Right, yeah.
Devin
not
Booker, no, not happening.
No, Devin Booker, no. That's shooting for the stars.
Let me just say that I hope and pray every night before I go to bed that Kevin Knox becomes a starting level NBA player. I pray that happens.
Now, Jason.
Yes.
RJ Barrett, is he the best Knick draft pick since Patrick Ewing?
Wow. Okay.
This is a good litmus test. Go ahead.
This is a good litmus test. You know what? Yeah, he is. He is because of the international reach, the work ethic, the dedication to the game, the two-way play, not just on offense, the burgeoning offensive game, but the defensive game. God, and guess what? His relationship with Zion Williamson, he is the best draft pick since Patrick Ewing.
That's it for this week's episode of The Putback, presented by 888 Sport. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Which Knick do you want taking the last shot in the playoffs? That's the subject of this week's SNY Fan Choice, presented by 888 Sport. Bet $20 on the Knicks or Nets and get $88 in free bets with promo code SNY88.